Hi, welcome back to THU TV. I'm Ian Fales. Hope you guys are checking out the website, trojan-unicorn.com/TV. That's where you can sign up to THU TV and watch shows that are being made here during the week. They're actually made just for you, just for subscribers. It's €59. Hope you check that out. I'm now joined by, and I'm going to stuff up the names, but let's just do it.
Yeah.
Shuzo Shiota.
Perfect.
From CEO Polygon Pictures.
Yeah.
And also Shinji Aramaki.
Yes.
A director. And, everyone will maybe know you from Appleseed things and other things. And what I wanted to talk to you both about today was the Japanese industry. It's something, unfortunately, I haven't been able to cover a lot at Cartoon Brew or in visual effects. So I just really wanted to get an insight into that industry, where you guys are. Maybe we could start first with talking about a bit of background about where you guys came from. We're going to, he's going to translate.
僕はおもちゃ業界が最初ですけど、すぐ、手書きのアニメーション、アニメの業界でデザイナーをやっていて、そのまま、ディレクターになって、その後、CG を中心にやるようになって、今ではほぼすべて、CG アニメーションのディレクションをやっています。
So you started out as a toy designer, and then moved on to becoming a designer for Japanese anime, hand-drawn anime. And from there on, he moved on to CG animation and directing CG animation. And since then, he's been in the CGI field, directing.
What are some of the major productions that you've been involved with?
その大きなプロダクションはどんなものがありますか？
そうですね、今まで付き合って、大体いろんな、もう30年以上やってますね。大体どことも東映アニメーションともやってるし、プロダクション IG ともやってますし、あと自分で作った空デジタルアーツという会社でもやってます。あと大きな日本の CG プロダクションとしては、デジタルフロンティアというところでアップルシードという作品を作りました。
So I've been doing it for 35 years. So I've been, working with most of the major studios in Japan, including Toei Animation and Production IG. What was it? He's also made his own studio called Sola Digital Arts 7 years ago. So right now his base is there, and also Appleseed production was done with a company called Digital Frontier. タイトルっていう意味ではどういうのがありますか？
僕がやったタイトル。そうですね、アニメで言うと、最初もう長い話なんですけど、ロボテックとか。
So it's going to be a long story, but in terms of titles that he's worked on, productions he's worked on Robotech.
Yeah.
アニメではフルメタルアルケミスト。
So Full Metal
Alchemist. 最近だとアトム、アストロボーイ。
Yeah.
たくさんあるんでちょっとそんなところですね。あとアップルシードとキャプテンハーロックとか。
Appleseed and Captain Harlock.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, we won't need to go through all of it, but people, I think, will be familiar with your work, which has been incredible over the years. Shuzo, you started Polygon as a really tiny production house, right? Or studio?
Well, no. I mean, I did not start Polygon because I came in midway. I mean,
did you?
We've been around for 34 years,
Yeah.
So, I was 3 when it started. No, I'm just kidding, but... I came in back in 1996.
Right.
But back then, Polygon was about 30, 40 people, I guess.
Right.
And
But how many now?
There's about 300 now.
Right.
Yeah, in Japan, and we have a subsidiary called Siruan PPI in Malaysia, which we have about close to 80 people. So we've grown quite a bit in the past few years.
And what are some of the productions that people will know or should know?
Well,
we
worked on we worked on a lot of episodic programs. We won Emmy Award for Transformers Prime. We worked with the great Rob Bally and Alberto Mielgo and director Charlie Bean on Tron Uprising. We did a few episodes for Clone Wars. And then more recently, talking about Japanese anime, we worked quite a bit with the director Mamoru Oshii. So we worked on the Ghost in the Shell 2, his next film, Skycrawlers. And more recently, we were producing our own project, which is based on Japanese manga. And it's become Netflix originals, and called Knights of Sidonia, Ajin Demi-Humans. And we just produced our own feature film called Blame, B-L-A-M-E, which is also on Netflix. And currently, we're working on a bunch of things, but we're right now on the verge of releasing the Godzilla films,
Right.
Godzilla animated films. It's a 3-parter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think one thing that's interesting is that people are sort of familiar with the American animation industry because that gets a lot of Hollywood press.
Right.
But how would you describe the Japanese industry in comparison to Hollywood? And maybe both of you can answer that from your own perspective.
日本のアニメ業界がハリウッドに比べてどうだと思いますか？
難しいですね。なんか一言で言いづらいですね
It's a little difficult. It's hard to say in a few words.
Yeah.
まあ CG アニメーション業界ってことですよね。
The CG animation industry. You're talking about the CG animation industry, or
Yeah,
animation industry.
CG animation.
CGI.
マーケットという話を絡めて言うと、日本のやっぱり
Talk about the
CG
market, the Japanese CG.
日本のアニメーションファンっていうのはやっぱり
Animation
手書きのアニメーションが好きなんですね。
Animation fans like hand-drawn animation. The
CG
Japanese
animation
fans are
というよりは。
fans of hand-drawn.
Yes.
でだから
So-
ルック的にも、いわゆるピクサーとかの映画は日本でもかなり受けられてはいますけど、テレ
People
ビ
will go see Pixar films, but in terms of look and style,
でアニメファンという、ある意味ティーンエイジャーを中心としたそのコアなファンたちはやっぱりセルルックのアニメーションが好きなん
but
で
the
す。
teenagers who are fans of animation would more rather prefer cell look, what we call toon shaded,
Yeah.
Cell look style of animation.
そこでなかなか、CG アニメーションがブレイクスルーするチャンスがなかなかなかったような気がするんですけど、それが近年やっぱりだんだん、それこそポリゴンピクチャーズの作ってる最近の作品とかのおかげでだんだん、変わってきてるんじゃないかと思います。
So it was difficult for CGI animation studios in Japan to break through to the industry, but recent years we've made progress, through the productions of likes of Polygon, and it's starting to get accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
ただ、その塩田さんのところも僕らのところもこの、45年ぐらい前まではどっちかというとアメリカのマーケットに向けた作品を作ることが多かったので、むしろ今僕らは逆に日本のマーケットにもう一回フォーカスし直して、日本にフォーカスしつつ世界にもうまくバランスとか取れた作品が作れるといいなっていうところで今模索してるっていう感じです。
So up until 4 or 5 years ago, both my company and Polygon, we've been focusing on creating animation for focused on international markets, but this is starting to change because the acceptance of the CGI medium within the anime fans. So now we're refocusing back on the domestic market, and so the hope is that to create a content that is that can garner like fanhood both domestically and internationally. Yeah.
Right. Great. And what about from your perspective? Because you obviously do a lot of traveling and you watch a lot of things, but what's your experience been?
Well, I mean, I think there's both a good side and a bad side. The good side is that including the hand-drawn animation industry, it's very, very robust. And as Aramaki-san said, the CGI companies are making an entry into that animation industry as an animation company, not just as a CGI company. And it's robust because animation, I think the biggest difference is that animation is accepted to a wide spectrum of audiences. So like in the States, it's sort of like conformed to kids,
Yeah.
But in Japan, of course there are kids animation, but we have a real big slate of animation that is being broadcast on television like in late night at 2 a.m. or something, which is geared towards teenagers or older. And it depicts, a really wide range of topics. The topics are so diverse.
Yeah.
So and normally, there will be about 80 new shows in a year, So the production is very very prolific. You
Yeah.
know? So I think that's a good point that we use animation to talk to a real wide range of audiences, and we cover a whole big amount of topics. The bad point, however, is that each of these projects, the budgets tend to be very low because it's geared towards a niche audience. And so because of these budgets, and historically, the animators have been paid very, very low. And so it's hard for animators to make a living. And it's a system that is on the verge of collapse. So people like us come in, which are like CG animation studios, and we're used to working with the Disneys and the Hasbros, and working in those rates and actually making a living and having family and stuff. That's becoming sort of like a provocation to the industry. So people are realizing, oh wow, there is a way to actually produce stuff at a higher budget. Like we would open up, avenues with the Netflixes, and they would bring in license fees that are much higher than what Japan used to be paid. So that allows for a new ecosystem that create titles, but also to be able to pay the animators a little bit more, than they used to. So. It's got its virtues and vices, and but I think it's on the cusp of making a major change.
It's actually really interesting. Whenever I talk to a American or European animator or animation director, they're actually quite envious of the Japanese industry, because you're able to do animation for adults, and I think that's what a lot of American animators want to do. And of course, traditionally they've talked to children,
right?
And that's changing. There's a few, not necessarily in feature films, but shorts, obviously. So it's and of course the challenge is budget, isn't it? As you say,
yeah. 僕のアメリカのディレクターとかは日本のそのテーマの幅広さとか、大人向けに作れるというところにすごく羨ましく思っていて、アメリカでも少しずつ変わってるけども、やっぱり外から見たらそういう羨ましい環境だなと思います。
たくさん安い予算でたくさん作れるっていう中でみんなある程度好きなことが非常にその辺は幅広く作るテーマが広がっているというのはいいところだと思うんですけど、その分やっぱりコスト的には非常に厳しい中で作ってるんで、その辺がそのネットフリックスとかそういった、配信サービスがこれから伸びるところで状況が変わっていくといいなっていうところですよね。
It's a system that's been supported by the fact that each of the projects have been the budgets have been rather low, so the producers can take risks and depicting more risky topics and such.
Yes.
But again, this is a good point. But again, this is on the sacrifice of the animators, and so he's also hopeful that with the change of paradigm with the streaming industries and license fee coming in from there, the paradigm would shift.
Yes. Well, when you both work on a production that is for an English language audience or will be shown in an English language country, what are the challenges, the production challenges there, just working in English and communicating, with America, with a different country that speaks English?
海外向けのプロダクションして英語でマーケットに語りかけなきゃいけないとか、このプロダクションと仕事をするときに何か難しいところありますか？
確かに英語が難しいですね。
Yes, the English is hard.
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge, right?
僕のいつも話してる話ですけど、僕のビジネスパートナーは基本的にアメリカ人なので。
But his business partner is an American.
Right.
それで彼とやっぱり12年ぐらい前に出会って、彼と仕事するようになって、どっちかというと僕もどっちかというと日本向けの作品というよりは海外で支持される作品の方が多いので、それで非常に。
him for the past 12, 13 years, and so since then, he's been creating properties that are focusing more on the international market rather than Japan.
そういう意味では今非常に、もうそれからずっとやりやすく、作り続けられるということはもうすごく僕にとっては。やりやすい環境が今できているという。
So in that sense, the environment that he's able to create is actually pretty. It's easy. It's a nice environment to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your experience, say with the new Netflix stuff that you've been doing? Is that English language or is that?
Well, so the thing is that I think there's two folds where we've had a lot of experience being outsourced companies for the likes of the Disneys and Hasbros, and that in itself, of course, there's a language issue, but that itself has been a very good experience for us because these companies they're very well established. The pre-production processes are very well established, and as long as and they like us because we're transparent. Our methodologies our workflow and pipeline is pretty well set. So it sort of like allows us to hone our workflow and processes, to a very high state. This is something that is very difficult in Japan because again, it's pretty it's pretty ghetto the way it creates, right?
Yeah.
So on the other hand, you're talking about like producing a property, for that's consumed by international audiences. In our case, all of our projects have been anime looking kind of things in CGI. And so we find that, as an edge. So we find that this differentiates us from the likes of the Pixars, and it gives us a certain position that they will not be able to come to. I mean, so we're seriously thinking about winning, but winning in a way that, because we don't have the $100 billion budgets, right?
Yeah.
So we have to win in a way where this is a genre, this is a look and style that people would not be able to apprehend in a certain amount of time. So we want to retain the edge. But in terms of storytelling, though, we make sure that the storytelling is, accessible universally. So of course, the theme that we would utilize are pretty edgy themes, but the way of storytelling, we try to be as universal as much as possible.
Right.
So we want to balance the edginess of the look and style, the theme, but an accessibility in terms of the storytelling.
Great. I think people might be curious about working in Japan. When you go to an American studio or someone in London or Europe, it's very multicultural,
Right.
because they need to bring in skills from around the world. Are there opportunities for outsiders to come and work in Japan?
日本で働くっていうことに興味持ってる人は多いと思うんですけど、でヨーロッパとか多民族だけども、日本で働くっていうことはありますか？
そうですね、僕のスタジオも今、そんなにないけど多分15% ぐらいは海外で、アジアも多いんですけどヨーロッパから来てる人もいますし、うちはそんなにたくさん通訳がいるわけではないんですけど英語が分かる人間何人かいますんで、それでもなんとかなってますね。
The studio has about 50% of the staff is from other countries.
Oh, right.
People from Asia, also from Europe. But I mean, studio isn't that there's not that many people, but they are able to include foreign staffers to work together.
モチベーションの高いスタッフだったらいつでもウェルカムだし、今日本には来てないんですけど例えばフランスのコンセプトアートのアーティストと実際にやり取りして仕事を進めてもらったりとかしていることもありますので、その辺はできるだけ垣根を作らずに一緒にやっていきたいなと思ってます。
So if the motivation is high, they're always welcome. And also there's another type of relationship whereby they're not working in Japan, but they're working remotely. So he's working with a French concept designer on some of his projects, but remotely.
Right. And Polygon has an office in Tokyo and Malaysia as well?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How does that relationship work between the two studios? Locations.
Basically, we work on the same projects, and of course, the realm that we are in, which is episodic, the budgetary and restrictions are pretty high, So unfortunately, we can't do everything within Japan because of the cost structure, and so we would be working. We would come up with the entire scope of the work, and we would define the workflow and pipeline. And we would do most of the work that defines the quality and the look and style of the project. And then then we would pass off to our Malaysian studio to actually finish it up. But we have the same sort of relationship, even though it's not our subsidiary, with companies in India, companies in Taiwan, companies in Thailand. So we have a pretty robust partnership, with studios all over the world. And in answer to your question about foreign staff working in Japan, we have, again, along as with Sola Digital, Aramaki-san's studio, I think we got upwards of 15%, coming from overseas.
Right.
Currently, close to 20 countries, so which means that we've got about 50 people at any time. So we have a full-time translation team of 8. That translates all the emails and meeting transactions and stuff.
Wow.
So, I think we're a very welcoming studio in terms of foreign staff. And I actually conscientiously try to make it that sort of a mix-up. One, we need the talent, but two, it's because this foreign influences is a good stimulation for the Japanese staff. The Japanese tend to be quite introverted, and
Sure.
in their ways of behavior and also communication. But having the foreign influences and being forced to work together, right, I think opens up a lot of different venues.
Yeah.
And so I like that.
You might not be able to answer this question. This is a bit off track. But
Right.
what kind of visual effects market is there in Japan?
Ooh, good question. ビジュアルエフェクトマーケットはどう
い
ですか？
や僕はあんまり手を出したいないんですけどでも
Either,
多分
either for
上
local productions,
あ
sorry.
んまり
It's either for local productions or also doing worldwide work.
でもほとんど日本の映画のビジュアルエフェクトしかやってないですよね。だからまあいい仕事はしてると思いますけどあんまり状況は良くないんじゃないかなと、まあ、あんまり適当なこと言っちゃダメなんですけどあんまり僕は手を出してないですね。
He hasn't done visual effects work within Japan, and
Yeah.
so he can't say this is not a first-hand account. And he doesn't want to make, overgeneralized statements. But from his vantage point, it seems that it's doing good work, but it's not in a very good state.
Right.
And I agree too. I mean, most of the work. I mean, I don't know of any studio that is doing like pickup work from overseas projects. It's mostly domestic.
Yes.
And I was actually on a government committee, talking about how to promote the movie industry, the production studios and
Yeah.
such. And I was interviewing a few prominent directors, who's done one of Japan's biggest VFX heavy films and such. And they were pretty forthcoming in saying that the Japanese, it's the same way, sort of same way with animation production, but the way the Japanese make film production is it's very domesticated. And so the way that they shoot the studio system is a pretty much carryover from the early 1900s to this day.
Yeah.
So it's extremely efficient in that, so the way that they create is in the way that the amount of stuff that they can do within the budgetary and schedule restrictions because of the way they do it is extremely efficient. However, because they've not updated their production processes, it doesn't go beyond a certain level. And when they try to work with overseas, productions, they just can't because their production methodologies are archaic and they can't keep up. So this is the result of being sort of like a Galapagos, being such an enclosed kind of state.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I'm fascinated because the truth is, again, I haven't done much coverage of, if any, of the visual effects industry there. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah. And we don't have like any sort of subsidies or incentives of any kind.
No.
We just don't. So and so we're at a state where we have to figure it out ourselves.
Right. Okay. Well, just to start wrapping it up, you've been to THU many times.
It's my second time.
Oh, second time?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I seem like a regular, but it's my second time.
And this is your first time.
Yes.
And just quickly, your thoughts on it so far.
THU について。
いやまだ正直でもこういうなんでイベントだとは聞いてたんですけど、来てみないと本当にこの状況っていうのは分かんなかったですね。なんかこの距離感というかこういうふうにプロ同士がコミュニケーションできるという機会っていうのは実はありそうでなかなかないことなんで、これはしかもこういう閉鎖された場所で1週間一緒にいるっていうのはすごいことなんじゃないかなと思います。
I heard about it, but I only understood it by coming.
Yes.
And I find that this is a very rare opportunity where professionals and industry people come together and talk about their artwork. And it seems like there might be other opportunity to do so, but there's actually not many venues you can actually do it like here, especially because you're sort of secluded in the peninsula for such a long time.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty fascinating thing.
And you obviously have enjoyed it as well.
Oh my God, yeah. Too much.
All right.
I think for the week I spent here, my lifespan shortens every about 2 months.
Well, based on what Robert Valley said about half an hour ago, I think that's the same.
Yeah. Rob and I've been to the same situations quite a lot, so I think he and I are living shorter now.
All right. Guys, thanks so much for joining
Thank
me.
you.
Really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Ed.
Cheers.
Thank you.